Welcome in, college football fans. You're listening to the College Sports Superfan, and Week 0 is right around the corner, so let's get into it. All right, obviously the biggest game of Week 0 is the game in Dublin, Ireland, between Florida State, who's ranked number 10 in the AP poll coming up with this season. Obviously, amazing season last year, and then the disappointment that happened right at the end of the year, being left out of the college football playoff, and then getting beaten down by Georgia with their backup squad in the Orange Bowl. They're up against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, so a different team from Georgia, but an ACC conference foe in Ireland. Very strange. This is the third year in a row that a game in Dublin has taken place, and the last two were very interesting indeed. The first one got canceled because of COVID. Then eventually Northwestern and Nebraska played each other in Ireland. That was the first matchup between conference foes, and that turned into a thriller. Northwestern won in a close one and then proceeded to lose every single game the rest of the season, but at least their fans had a thrilling victory in that one. Last year, it was a bit of a snooze fest as Notre Dame destroyed Navy in their Ireland game last season. Now we got number 10 Florida State, once again a top 10 team in Ireland, going up against an unranked team. However, unlike Navy, Georgia Tech is a much tougher squad. They got a fantastic dual threat quarterback in Haynes King. The Yellow Jackets seem to have finally started to find their stride last season, going 6-6 in the regular season, and then also winning the bowl game to finish with a winning record. So it seems like Brent Key has something that's going, but Florida State is angry about how things have gone. So how will this year's matchup shape out? Well, you take a look at Florida State, they've got a very talented roster overall. They bring in DJ Uyungule, who's a senior veteran quarterback, really redeemed himself at Oregon State last season, even though his career at Clemson was very up and down. He's got one last chance, though, to make it to the NFL. The other strong part about the Florida State Seminoles is they have a good running back core that's led by Roydell Williams, a former Alabama running back that's transferred in. And then they've also got a very talented defense led by Patrick Payton and also Joshua Farmer. Those guys both kind of up in the front seven, going to cause a lot of havoc. You also have a great secondary that's led by Fentrell Cypress, who is a very talented cornerback. So the defense is very solid, but there are some question marks about the wide receiver room. They've only got one returning starter at receiver, and that's the senior tight end, Kyle Morlock. The other three receivers are all very new, but Malik Benson has made some plays at other locations, so he could be a big-time star. But the offensive coordinator, Alex Atkins, is still very young. He's probably a future head coach in the making, but this is an opportunity where he can prove himself. This is really the biggest weakness on the team. The special teams unit should be good because they have a returning kicker and punter, and overall the defense very, very solid, and that's the biggest reasons why they have a number 10 team. That and all the success they had last season and bringing in a veteran quarterback. And the schedule doesn't line up too terribly, but this game in Ireland could really derail the whole season because, again, it's on foreign soil. Who knows what's going to happen in this matchup? Could get very, very fascinating. Now, as we take a look at Georgia Tech, again, as I said, not ranked too poorly last year. They went 7-6, not a bad mark in the regular season. And a lot of ranking sites have them inside of the top 50. So yes, they're not in the top 25, but they are still in the top 50, maybe a top 40 team. So this is a team that you should expect to be competitive with Florida State. The expectation is that the Seminoles will win by about 13, 14 points. So we can expect this to maybe be a close game by halftime, and then the Seminoles to pull away in the second half is kind of what we're realistically looking at. But you look at this team, and they can be dangerous. Their offense is led by Haynes King, who was a great starting quarterback last year. They've got a great running back in Jamal Haynes, who really blew up. He's also a junior as well. And overall, they've got a solid offensive line. 3 offensive line starters return from last year. That's going to really help. And the defense as well returns a lot of starters. I'm counting 7 starters coming back on defense, and they also have returning starting kicker Aiden Burr, and starting punter David Shanahan. So overall, this Georgia Tech team returns a lot of veteran talent, and I expect them to be a team that could take a step forward, really should take a step forward. Last year, of course, they went 6-6. I'm kind of thinking at least 7-5 this season. Again, the ACC can be tough, but also at the same time is not as tough as the SEC or the Big Ten, or even, in my opinion, the Big 12, which I think is a little bit deeper than the Atlantic Coast Conference. Overall, I expect this to be a very close matchup. This is definitely going to be the best matchup of Week 0. There's only a few matchups total, and the others are really all not that interesting. The only other matchup that is worth taking a look at is the Southern Methodist Mustangs beating down Nevada's SMU, transferring to the ACC. Could be a threat to compete for the conference title in year 1. There'll be more on them as we get into more of the Week 1 games. But that is it for Week 0. My prediction, Florida State does win against Georgia Tech in a close one. I'm going to say Georgia Tech covers. FSU wins by 7. All right, thank you guys so much for listening to the College Sports Superfan. See you guys in Week 1.